Secretly loving Eric for the 10th year. I finally got what I wished for. I was about to marry him 1 month before the wedding. He said he needed to go overseas for work. I gladly agreed and prepared all the wedding details by myself. 7 days before the wedding, I came across a video online. A blogger and her boyfriend were holding a wedding ceremony under the snowy mountains. Her boyfriend was Eric. Chapter 1. While scrolling on Xiaomushu, a lifestyle video platform, I saw a viral post. Breakup countdown day 7, welcome to the wedding that belongs to me and him. The blogger uploaded a video. Endless snowy mountains, a pathway filled with flowers, cheers, and blessings. The bride in a fluffy, dreamlike gown, whiter and purer than new snow. And behind her, a tall man who didn't show his face, standing like a silent knight guarding his princess. Together with sacred yet slightly melancholic background music, it was nothing short of a perfect wedding. The comments sighed, so tragic. If he can't be with you, at least let him see you in a wedding dress once. The blogger liked that comment. In the post, she described in detail the preparations the two had made for this wedding. He personally picked her wedding dress, designed the venue, handled all the trivial tasks. Even though he didn't like taking photos, he patiently accompanied her through the wedding photo shoot, just to give her the truest, most complete experience. I felt a surge of envy. I unlocked my phone. The pinned chat remained silent. Almost every message on the screen was green. The latest message froze at 3 hours ago. I had asked when he would return to China. Maybe because of the time difference, he hadn't replied. Chapter 2. I replayed the video again and again. After watching it enough times, I began to feel that the man's gestures looked strangely familiar. A bit like Eric. While I was spacing out, the comments section gained new voices. I don't get it. What does this mean? Why a breakup countdown? Some helpful netizens explained. They were childhood sweethearts, but separated for some reason. They finally met again. But the boyfriend is getting married. Since neither of them can let go, they agreed to date for 30 days, to leave each other one last beautiful memory. I assent that just being a homewrecker? Why sugarcoat it? If you don't understand, don't talk nonsense. Check the blogger's past posts. The boyfriend isn't doing this willingly. His family is forcing him into a political marriage. Exactly. They're both pitiful. Even if they love each other, they can't be together. A string in my mind hummed sharply. My palms broke out in a layer of cold, greasy sweat. My fingers moved before my brain did. Opening the blogger's page, I started reading from the very first post. Over the past month, they had gone camping, snorkeling, skydiving, chasing waves along the beach, picking gifts for each other at outdoor markets, watching midnight movies, taking photos of themselves leaning close, under moonlit, empty alleys. The blogger was careful about protecting her boyfriend's privacy. She almost never showed his face, but happiness always leaks through the cracks. In the latest behind-the-scenes clip of the wedding preparations, there appeared, for just a fleeting moment, a man's hand, wearing an enamel Patek Philippe, with defined knuckles, and a faint scar across the back of the hand. With just one glance, I knew that was Eric. Chapter 3. In the behind-the-scenes clip, the blogger's boyfriend. No, he was Eric. Eric's hand hovered among a variety of floral materials, picking and choosing, until he finally selected a bouquet of pure white lilies of the valley. He drew out one stem, carefully trimmed it, and gently tucked it into the blogger's hair. His little finger hooked a strand of her loose hair, brushing tenderly across her cheek. The watch dial on his wrist caught the light, cold, sharp, like an arrow of light. It shot straight into my eyes, piercing me all over. That Patek Philippe enamel watch was the engagement gift I had given Eric. When he clasped the watch onto his wrist, he had solemnly promised he would cherish it, wear it often. I slowed my breathing and let out a self-mocking laugh. Eric truly hadn't lied. Even while planning a wedding with his so-called childhood sweetheart, he didn't take off the watch. A storm of emotions surged in my chest. I closed my eyes. The closer the wedding day approached, the busier Eric became with work, frequent business trips. He would disappear for 3 to 5 days at a time. In the last few weeks, He even used the excuse of overseeing the European market and decided to stay overseas for a period. I could clearly recall how he reassured me, "When I'm a little less busy, after the wedding, I'll take you on a honeymoon anytime, any place you choose." I had been so immersed in the joy of finally marrying Eric that I ignored how abnormal he had become. Until now, it felt like someone had ripped away the blindfold I'd been wearing this whole time, and suddenly I realized the fairy tale castle I thought I was walking toward was actually a sheer cliff. My heart plummeted in that feeling of stepping into empty air. My phone screen lit up, dimmed, then lit again. I blinked at it just as a new message arrived. "Miriam, which table flower arrangement do you think is better?" Followed by several images. I opened the message. The wedding planner was still conscientiously confirming every detail in the group. Scrolling upward, Eric had never replied in the group. Not even once. As if this entire wedding had nothing to do with him. As if all he needed to do was show up on the day. I exhaled slowly. The faint determination that had kept me blindly walking forward drained away. I typed, word by word, "No need to choose. The wedding is cancelled. We're not getting married." Chapter 4. The group chat exploded. The wedding planner sent several shocked emojis in a row, terrified. She asked what part one was dissatisfied with. They could adjust anything. So cautious. Just like me. Back when I first arrived at Eric's home, desperately trying to please Eric and his mother, Monica. I comforted her a bit, then decisively left the group. Planner Alice sent me a private message, trembling, "Miriam, don't worry, even if the wedding is cancelled. We'll still handle all follow-up arrangements properly." Follow up. I transferred her a 6-figure payment and asked her to take care of everything. As I confirmed the transfer, my phone slipped and jumped back to the earlier page. The post could no longer be viewed. Relying on memory, I typed in the blogger's ID. Still blank. The account had been deleted. For a moment, I almost wondered if everything that happened was just a hallucination. Almost simultaneously, Eric called. I stared at the bouncing avatar for a long time. Then the call ended. His messages came rapidly. "Miriam, what the hell are you doing? Pick up the phone. What do you mean we're not getting married? Explain. Answer me. So it wasn't a time zone problem. He simply didn't want to reply to me. Realizing this, I shut off my phone. On my desk sat a framed photo of me and Eric. In it, I was wearing my graduation gown, half my face hidden behind a bouquet of sunflowers, eyes full of affection as I looked at him. Eric, back then much less adept at hiding his emotions, wore a stiff, reluctant expression, but his hand rested lightly on my shoulder. I lowered my gaze, picked up the picture frame, and threw it into the trash. Chapter 5. When I returned to the villa, I thought I would toss and turn all night, but perhaps it was because I'd already made up my mind. With all the burdens finally lifted, I unexpectedly slept well for the first time in ages. That clear-headed, refreshed mood lasted only until I went downstairs the next morning. Beside the living room sofa, a silent figure stood quietly. Hearing movement, Eric turned around, perhaps due to long-haul flights. He looked exhausted, his eyes bloodshot. Yet the moment he saw me, he still couldn't help curling his lips into a mocking grin. "You sure have the mood to sleep." After stirring up such chaos outside, I reined in my temper. "Get some rest first. Whatever you want to say. Wait until you've slept." Eric let out a cold, dismissive laugh. Then he slowly stood up and walked toward me. His shoulders were broad, his legs long. 2 steps and he had already cornered me between his chest and the wall. His tall frame, along with his breath and presence, completely enclosed me. I held my breath, uncomfortable. I pressed a hand against his chest, trying to put distance between us. Eric didn't care in the slightest. His gaze wandered across my face, scrutinizing. After a long moment, he said, amused, "So, what is it this time that you're not satisfied with?" I turned my head away, forcing myself to stay calm. Then I said, "Eric, let's call off the engagement. You can bear to?" Eric looked as if he had heard a joke, his expression flippant. "And besides, my mother won't agree." After all, he dragged out his tone, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're her ideal daughter-in-law. We only got engaged because you agreed." I reminded him, From dating, to engagement, to choosing the wedding date. Throughout the entire process, Eric had been lukewarm, but he had never resisted. So I naively believed that maybe he liked me, even if just a little. I never said I didn't want the wedding. Eric sneered. You're the one saying you want to cancel it now. Miriam, what exactly are you trying to pull? He stared at me, as if trying to read something from my expression. Wedding? I almost laughed. Didn't you already have one? Eric froze for a moment, then suddenly understood. So this is why you're mad. No guilt. No shock. Not even the instinct to deny it. He looked at me as if discovering something mildly interesting. It was just a little ceremony, nothing meaningful. Celine said she wanted a set of wedding photos and asked me to cooperate. You're jealous over that? That was his explanation. I didn't even know what emotions were left inside me. I paused, then spoke gently. Our wedding is also just a ceremony, meaningless to you. If you're not sincere about marrying me, then it's better to stop it in time. As for your mother, you don't need to worry. I'll handle it. Eric interpreted it entirely differently. He stared at me for several seconds, and slowly, his gaze turned cold, with a hint of malice. He lifted his hand and brushed my earlobe. So that's your plan, huh? My mistake. We'll go register at the Civil Affairs Bureau today. We'll get the marriage certificate. That should satisfy you, Mrs. Eric, right? Where he touched burned like fire. The heat spread down my neck, crawling over my skin. Every hair on my arms stood on end. Maybe the disgust on my face was too obvious. Eric's expression abruptly hardened. You're disgusted by me touching you? Miriam? What you wanted, haven't I given you all of it? Money, status, you have everything. What else are you dissatisfied with? Then he suddenly let out a short laugh, as if he had realized something ridiculous. Don't tell me, you were expecting me to love you? I slapped Eric across the face. The crisp sound exploded in the silent room. Eric hissed in pain, staggering backward as he released me. I stood numbly in place. My forearm and fingertips tingled. Numb. The burning pain spread up my cheek. Oddly enough, he was the one slapped. But the humiliation belonged entirely to me. I felt ashamed on behalf of the Miriam who loved him for 10 years. Chapter 6. When I was 16, my mother, who had been my entire world, passed away overnight, while I was still drowning in the grief of losing my only family. Eric's mother, Monica, came to me. She said she had been my mother's closest friend since childhood, that she could sponsor me until I graduated from university, and invited me to stay temporarily at her home. Eric was lukewarm about my arrival. For a long time, I thought he didn't like me, so I tried even harder to please him in every way. Until one day, rumors about me began to circulate at school, saying I was using Eric's family as a stepping stone to sell myself, saying that I wasn't just temporarily staying there, but was actually a child bride. When the gossip reached Eric, he beat up several boys who had made the crude remarks. After that, the relationship between us grew much closer. We went to and from school together, attended various tutoring classes together. Eric's father had passed away early. His mother bore the full weight of running the enormous family corporation. Though she was busy, she spared no effort in cultivating Eric's abilities in every aspect. Through his connections, I also began to encounter fields I had never touched before. Unlike my frantic clumsiness, Eric handled everything with ease. When he taught me to ski for the first time, no matter how he guided me, I remained stiff and unable to move my legs. Frustrated and helpless, he scolded. How is it that everyone else learns after hearing it once, and you're still this slow? I pursed my lips, shook off his hand, and stomped back uphill. The ski pole in my hand was gently tugged back. Eric raised an eyebrow. Helpless. So temperamental. Fine. I said it wrong. I'll definitely teach you today. By the time the sun was about to set, I finally managed my first proper falling leaf turn. I turned around excitedly, wanting to boast to him. In the distance, the sky was ablaze with magnificent crimson light, the sunset spreading across half the heavens like a burning fire. Eric stood quietly behind me. At that moment, I could clearly hear the sound of my own heart falling for him, so I tried even harder. I wanted to become someone whom his mother and Eric would acknowledge. Even more. Someone important in their hearts. Chapter 7. I once thought I had succeeded. Until one day, I unintentionally overheard Eric talking with his friend. His friend teased, "Why didn't I see your little wifey following you today?" Eric's voice didn't sound as calm as usual. If you listened carefully, there was even a trace of disgust. "Don't call her that." He paused, then added, "She's not worthy." Rationally, I knew he wasn't wrong. While I struggled to correct my English pronunciation and forced myself through introductory finance books, Eric was already holding a wine glass with ease, following behind his mother, chatting confidently with the guests who came and went, swimming, diving, skiing, rock climbing, racing, horseback riding. He was dabbling in everything. Between Eric and me, there was a gulf of identity, of class, of experience. But emotionally, hearing the person I secretly loved state so firmly that I was not worthy still made me feel humiliated, furious, and deeply ashamed. So when Monica asked whether I preferred to stay in the country with her, or go abroad with Eric for his studies, I chose to stay. When Eric found out, he blocked the door to my room. He was furious. "Miriam, do you agree to anything my mom tells you to do? Are you that desperate to please her? Do you like me, or do you like my family's money?" After saying that, he casually flung something to the ground and crushed it mercilessly under his shoe. "Take it back. Your affection is too cheap. I don't want it." The door slammed shut. It was only after a long time that I slowly walked over. In the empty hallway, lying on the floor, was a poorly made stuffed doll, the kind most commonly found in claw machines. When Eric had snatched it from my hands, he awkwardly said that seeing the doll from then on would feel like seeing me. Now, the doll lay there in a dusty heap. Its little face still wore a flattering, ingratiating smile under those few shoe prints. It looked even more pathetic. Chapter 8. When I arrived at the company, I felt a bit exhausted. The assistant brought me coffee. "Eric actually came to the company today, but he looks terrible. Did something happen?" The black coffee tasted bitter in my mouth. I glanced at her. "Is your workload too light?" She immediately straightened up. "The representative from Qingyao Technology will arrive in 30 minutes. I didn't expect the person to be a familiar face. When she saw me, the woman, who had already been sitting, stood up again, extended her hand, and introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Celine." As we shook hands, I could feel my fingertips cold and trembling slightly. Celine blinked at me playfully. "So you're Eric's fiancé? Eric mentioned you before." "Actually, Eric and I grew up together. If I hadn't followed my dad abroad at 15, we would have met much earlier. Who knows? Maybe we could have become good friends." No wonder she said in her post that she and Eric were childhood sweethearts. Turns out my appearance merely filled the vacancy she left behind. A flood of absurd thoughts flashed through my mind. I withdrew my hand. "Time is tight. Let's get straight to business." Celine looked displeased and said toward my back, "Eric, your fiancé is so serious." Eric walked past me, intentionally or unintentionally glancing my way. The general direction and framework of cooperation had long been settled. This meeting was just to review the terms again. Near the end, Celine suddenly asked, "Is there still room to negotiate the profit margin?" I was slightly surprised. "Miss Celine, do you have objections?" Celine rested her chin on her hand. "You know, my dad used to manage Qingyao. I only recently took over, so I'm not very familiar with its internal operations. But Qingyao's current scale is different from a few years ago. If we continue using the previous model, it might not be appropriate." "Eric, don't you think so?" She tilted her head, looking at Eric. "But our cooperation with Qingyao has always. Times have changed." Celine interrupted me. "Now that Eric is the one running the company, things will certainly be different from when Aunt Monica was in charge." Something in her words clearly struck a nerve with Eric. He hesitated, then actually nodded. "I'll consider it." I was about to speak when Eric sent me a warning glance. Celine closed her laptop. "You two can discuss the details privately and get back to me soon." After business was done, she curved her lips into a smile. "Eric, let's have lunch together." She then turned to me, her expression openly triumphant. "Would you like to join us? You know, She looked me over carefully. I feel like you, and I clicked right away. Her assistant chimed in. Miss Miriam, you do look a bit like Miss Celine in the eyes and brows. Don't talk nonsense. Celine pretended to scold. I kept my face expressionless. I have other work to handle, so I won't join. Chapter 9. Eric followed me into the office. When I reached the desk, he frowned. Where's our photo? Don't agree to Celine. We spoke at the same time. Eric raised an eyebrow. Miriam, it's outside of work hours. He lowered his head and tapped on his phone. My phone buzzed twice. I glanced down. It was Eric, pulling me back into the wedding planning group chat. Alice sent a confused question mark. Eric, the wedding continues. No need to cancel. He produced a velvet ring box from somewhere. When he opened it, inside sat a perfectly cut, clear, dazzling diamond. Eric pushed it toward me. You said you wanted to visit Antwerp. I happened to pass by a few days ago. I think you'll like this one. How coincidental, because I had seen this very ring in Celine's post. She wrote how she and her boyfriend went sightseeing in Antwerp and found their dream accessory. He asked her what she thought of the ring, and she said only a tasteless nouveau riche would like such an exaggerated style, which made him laugh. Strange. I had only read it once, yet I could recite every word. Celine chose it for you? Eric looked surprised but admitted it. Yes, you know I'm not good at picking these things. His explanation was cut off by the sound of the ring dropping into the trash. His expression darkened. Miriam, what tantrum are you throwing now? I thought I explained clearly this morning. Looking straight at him, I repeated. I'm breaking off the engagement. You can marry whoever you want. It has nothing to do with me. What exactly are you upset about? Eric was baffled. You wanted to get married. My mother chose you. I agreed. What more do you want? I regret it. I said tiredly. Is that enough? Regret it? The wedding is in a few days. The guests are already flying in, and now you regret it? His voice turned icy. I laughed softly. You can go ahead with the wedding. Just swap out the bride. I meant it sincerely. A strange look flickered across Eric's face. What do you mean? I was glad I'd saved Celine's posts. I handed him my phone. Eric read silently. A moment later, his tense posture loosened. Even his voice lightened. I didn't know Celine posted all this. No need to explain. I interrupted him. It has nothing to do with me. I met his eyes. Eric, for your mother's sake, let's not make this ugly. Whether it's Celine or anyone else, if you like her, feel free to pursue her. I believe your mother won't object. You're very generous. Eric did not sound pleased. He paced the room like an agitated beast. Eventually, he stopped in front of me, pretending to be considerate. If you don't marry me, who else will you marry? Leave here. Leave me. What better option do you think you can find? He had the arrogance to back up his words. However, that's my business, not yours. Silence stretched long. Finally, Eric moved. The air shifted as he turned away. He left only his retreating back in a cold sentence. Explain it to my mother yourself. I'm not getting involved. Chapter 10. Right before pushing open the ward door, I thought I was prepared. I wasn't. Monica was lying weakly and silently on the hospital bed. The once decisive, tough businesswoman now relied on expensive medication and nutrient infusions just to stay alive. To say I wasn't affected would be a lie. I tiptoed over to her bedside. As I lowered my head, I unexpectedly met a pair of dark, piercing eyes. Aunt Monica. My heart skipped a beat, my expression stiffening. Monica closed her eyes. Such a grown woman. Yet you're startled by everything. Not steady at all. I steadied my racing heartbeat. Are you feeling any better today? Monica struggled to sit up. She wouldn't let me help, not even with such a simple movement, yet she was already panting heavily. You should be preparing for the wedding. Why are you running here instead? I hesitated, unable to say the words. Monica waited a few minutes. I heard you're planning to call off the engagement with Eric. The room was silent. So silent that each word she spoke crashed into my ears, crushing me until I couldn't straighten my back. Miriam, you are the daughter-in-law I personally chose. You came to our house when you were 16. I can say with a clear conscience, I've never treated you badly. Besides you, I wouldn't trust anyone else to take care of Eric. Think of this as me asking you for something in return. Just a few sentences. Yet she said them with great difficulty. After you marry, live well, then I can leave this world peacefully. The air filled with suffocating silence. It felt like someone was pressing my head underwater. Oxygen thinning out. My lungs aching with every breath. I drew in a shaky breath. I'm sorry, Aunt Monica. I can't marry him. Why? Monica's voice was faint. Eric has feelings for you, I can see that. And you've always liked him too. If you marry, both of you will be happy. What's wrong with that? That was in the past. Aunt Monica. Now, the ward door suddenly burst open. Eric stood at the entrance, face dark with fury. Monica was startled, clutching her chest. Her gaze drifted between the two of us a few times before she weakly waved her hand. Forget it. You two have grown wings. My words don't matter anymore. I won't interfere in your mess. Whether you marry or not, decide for yourselves. Chapter 11. Eric dragged me out of the ward. Standing in the corridor, he lowered his voice and shouted angrily, Miriam, there must be a limit to your nonsense. How dare you come to my mom with this? I smoothed the wrinkles he had made on my clothes. Eric, when will you finally understand what I'm saying? I've said it 10,000 times, I want to call off the engagement. Did you think I was joking? Or, I glanced at him sideways, deliberately provoking him. Or is it that you can't bear to leave me? It was as if I had stepped on his tail. His voice shot up an octave. Can't bear to leave you? Miriam, you really know how to flatter yourself. Who do you think you are? Without my family, you are nothing. A nurse hurried over and sternly told him to keep his voice down. Eric pressed his lips tightly together. His dark eyes locked onto me. I smiled. In that case, I guess we have a mutual understanding. Let's cancel the wedding. Miriam, don't regret this. Before I turned to leave, I heard Eric grit the words through his teeth. Regret? As I walked out of the hospital, I looked up at the vast blue sky. So wide, so boundless. I only regret ever being soft-hearted enough to agree to marry Eric in the first place. Chapter 12. Eric disabled all my permissions in the company system. When I stood in the company lobby and couldn't even scan my access card, I felt a bit stunned. Miss Miriam, why are you standing here instead of going in? A familiar figure walked toward me gracefully. Celine carried her handbag, her gaze sliding past my shoulder toward the access panel. She glanced and smiled knowingly. Is there some misunderstanding? I happen to need to see Eric about something. Come with me. She took out a long-term visitor pass from her bag and scanned it with a beep. Seeing my eyes fixed on the card, she smiled and explained. Eric said we'd have frequent dealings from now on, so this makes things easier for me. In the elevator, Celine complained in a half-true, half-false tone. Miss Miriam, you look quite radiant today. Eric was in a strange mood last night. He dragged me out drinking until the middle of the night. I still haven't recovered. I glanced at her and nodded in agreement. Indeed, your face is puffy. Your skin looks dull. Your pores are enlarged. And your dark circles are obvious. You really should rest well. Celine's fake smile stiffened. I withdrew my gaze. Miss Miriam seems to be in a bad mood. But within seconds, Celine recovered, lowering her voice again to brag. Is it because Eric wants to break off the engagement with you? Or because he halted your work? Well, yes, when both love and career fail, it's hard to be in a good mood. But I'm different. I'm here to sign a new contract with Eric. He agreed to give me an extra 5% profit in the new agreement. I couldn't hold back. Did Eric damage his brain? Celine looked at me innocently. The numbers on the elevator display blinked slowly upward. I gradually calmed down. I've seen your posts, Miss Celine. I don't know what your goal is, but if I were you, I wouldn't try to provoke me at this moment. After all, I step aside so you two lovesick fools can be together. And one more thing. Starting a company is easy. Keeping it alive is hard. With you and Eric being so impulsive, selfish, and childish, I seriously doubt how long Qingyao and his family's company can survive in your hands. At that exact moment, the elevator doors opened. Outside stood Eric, expression unreadable. Celine ran to him with a pitiful look. Just as she was about to speak, Eric said coldly, "Where are the security guards?" Since when can just anyone walk in? The assistant behind him looked troubled. Glancing between him and me, there's no need to rush me out. I stepped out of the elevator. I'm here to process my resignation. The moment I decided to break off the engagement with Eric, I had already resolved to leave everything here completely. Chapter 13. While I packed my things in the office, Eric leaned against the doorframe with his arms crossed. His tone was lazy. Be careful. Don't accidentally take any confidential documents with you. My hands paused for a moment. Feeling reluctant, I asked, well, after all, you spent years being my mother's loyal dog, working so hard to climb into this position. Eric spoke slowly. Too bad, the company doesn't need an outsider like you meddling. I lowered my eyes. Eric never learns how to speak properly. When he's upset, he wants everyone else to be upset with him. When I loved him, I was often hurt by his unintentional malice. Now that I don't love him anymore, hearing him talk like this just makes him seem annoying. I earned this position with my own abilities. Better than you, who only knows how to use the company to curry favor with others. You should worry more about not destroying your mother's hard work. I dropped what was in my hands. There's nothing worth packing. No need to watch me. Since sophomore year, I had followed Monica and learned everything from her. I rotated through every department, from the lowest position to having my own office. About the company, about Monica, I can say I have a clear conscience. The only thing I'm grateful for is that Monica offered me a generous salary and dividends, enough to ensure I won't worry about money in the future. You know what, Miriam? Eric's face darkened. What I hate most is how you act just like my mother, so high and mighty. And so what? I don't care. I said, we won't see each other again. Why should I care what you like or hate? Eric gave a cold laugh. Retreating to advance? Besides Nanching, where else can you go? Chapter 14. Before leaving Nanching, I went to the hospital to visit Monica one last time. Hearing me say I was leaving, she sighed softly after a long silence. Go, you've done enough all these years. It's Eric who lacks the blessing. He didn't know how to cherish you. One day, he will regret it. Please take good care of yourself. Monica closed her eyes, silently bidding me farewell. I didn't know where to go. Every memorable moment of my life had happened in Nanching. Most of my youth was spent chasing Monica's and Eric's approval. Family and friends, Eric had aggressively occupied the most important place. So much so that no one else ever had a chance to enter my life. Looking back, I finally realized how impoverished my past had been. I chose Rome City, my mother's hometown, as the first stop after leaving. Before the plane took off, my phone received a call from an unfamiliar number. The person on the other end didn't speak, only empty. Whistling wind came through the receiver. I didn't need to think twice about who it was. I hung up without hesitation. After landing, the first thing I did was buy a new phone card. Chapter 15. After drifting from place to place for months, I still chose to return to Rome City. I bought a small villa by the water and opened a modest pottery studio, selling handmade crafts. My teacher once told me, clay is forgiving. No matter what mistakes you make during the process, the clay will always give you another chance to try again. Watching a soft, shapeless lump gradually become a solid piece through shaping and firing, I felt as if I, too, had regained the courage to take control of my own life. Perhaps luck was on my side. One ceramic ornament I designed suddenly went viral. The studio started gaining a steady stream of customers. The next time I received a call from Eric was half a year later. I was guarding the kiln, waiting for a batch of pieces to finish firing. The sky was still dark. Pale dawn barely brushed the indigo horizon. Everything was asleep, making his voice through the phone sound like a faint murmur. Miriam. I have no family left. I took the earliest flight back to Nanching. Eric sent a driver to pick me up. As soon as I got in the car, the driver handed me a food box. Sir specifically instructed the house staff to prepare breakfast according to your old preferences. Please eat a little. The box felt warm in my hands, a faint aroma seeping through the cracks. I didn't have much of an appetite, so I set it aside. In just a single year, the once familiar streets now carried a hint of strangeness. I sighed and asked, meeting the driver's gaze in the rearview mirror. How is Eric? Sir is very sad, the driver said. Finally finding an opening, he rambled. telling me about Eric's work these past 6 months. How he sat outside the operating room through the night when Monica was critically ill. Going on, almost recounting Eric's entire schedule. With you accompanying him, sir will surely get through this. I replied flatly. He told you to say these things, didn't he? He froze mid-sentence, embarrassment flashing across his face. Driving past an intersection, he finally sighed and murmured, actually, the day you left Nanching, sir went to the airport to see you off. He pushed away all his work and sat there the entire day. Every time someone walked out of the terminal, he thought it was you coming back. He even asked me if you had really left. I've driven sir for so many years. Miss Miriam, I've never seen him like that. He really cares about you. I didn't respond. The driver was Eric's employee. Of course he would speak in Eric's favor. But even so, his words didn't stir even the slightest ripple in my heart. Does Eric care about me? Perhaps. But his concern felt more like the discomfort of losing a familiar habit. Like someone who misplaces a useful tool. Whenever they happen to need it again, they'll subconsciously think, if only that tool were still here. But life doesn't stop simply because a tool is gone. Chapter 16. The car slowly stopped by the curb outside the funeral hall. I turned my head and instantly saw Eric standing not far away. His head drooped, his unkempt bangs falling over his eyes. The crisp lines of his tailored suit were ruined after a long night. The once sharp fabric now hung wrinkled and limp on his body. He looked like a heavy black cloud, wrapped in darkness from head to toe. Hearing the sound of the car, he lifted his head, then he jogged a few steps toward my direction. I pushed open the car door. The moment he saw me, Eric paused. After a moment of adjustment, he finally walked toward me step by step. You came. He lowered his eyes, his tight voice revealing a faint tremor. Up close, I realized he had grown thinner. He carried the frail exhaustion of someone recovering from a long illness. My condolences, I whispered. Eric's eyes instantly reddened, as if unable to hold himself together any longer. He stepped forward and suddenly pulled me into his arms. Shocked, I leaned back. I was about to push him away when he buried his head against my neck, his hunched back trembling slightly. Hot, damp tears quickly soaked through the fabric on my shoulder. His emotions came fast and went just as fast. He soon released me, though his eyes were still red. His expression had returned to its usual calm. Sorry, I lost control for a moment. It's fine, understandable. Eric gave a bitter smile. Miriam, must you really treat me like a stranger? Let's go, I said, avoiding his gaze. Everyone is waiting for you. Behind me, I could faintly hear Eric sigh. Chapter 17. After years bedridden, Monica's funeral arrangements had long been prepared. The portrait had been chosen in advance, a photo from her youth, even in black and white. Her spirited gaze shone through, carrying the heroic confidence I remembered from the woman she used to be. Eric forced himself to stay composed as he greeted waves of relatives and acquaintances who came to pay their respects. By evening, he finally had a moment to breathe. Let's go, I'll take you back to the old house to rest. Before I could refuse, he added, you've been away for so long. No one's been living there. Don't you want to see it? Mom revised her will before she passed. Some parts concern you. Even if you want to cut ties with me, you should at least wait until everything is handled. I hesitated for a few seconds and agreed. Eric visibly relaxed. He dismissed the driver and drove himself. The car was no longer the one from the morning but his usual Cullinan. When he opened the door for me, I paused. A familiar doll sat on the center console, its childish design completely mismatched with the car's polished wood interior. Following my gaze, Eric picked up the doll, while cleaning the old house a while back. My aunt found this in the corner of your bookshelf. His tone carried quiet nostalgia. Miriam, I didn't expect you to still keep it. I'd been on my feet all day, exhausted. My head throbbed faintly. It's just some cheap junk, I said flatly. Takes up space. You should throw it away. The moment the words fell, silence swallowed the car. Eric's lips pressed together tightly. His hands clenched the steering wheel. The knuckles turned pale. Under the flickering streetlights, his hidden pain flashed clearly for an instant. I pretended not to notice. The seat was soft as I drifted in and out of drowsiness. Something occurred to me. Oh right. I said softly. Tell your assistant to stop placing anonymous orders at my studio. Eric's eyes flicked toward me. Flustered. You knew? I suspected. I replied. My studio had only been open for a short while when it suddenly received an order from the South District. After that, regardless of new releases, the same address placed regular orders like clockwork. I turned slightly toward him. Eric, were you trying to pity me? No. Eric hurried to deny it. How could you think that? I never meant to pity you. I just wanted to give you whatever help I could. No need. I smiled faintly. The greatest help you can give me is to stop interfering in my life. This time, it was Eric who pretended not to hear. Chapter 18. The old mansion had hardly changed from when I left. One glance was enough to tell that someone had been maintaining it with great care. Standing under the porch, I felt a wave of emotion. You once did badly on an exam. I said. You dawdled and didn't dare go home. So you hid here. A warm body approached from behind. I quietly took a step aside. Later, you came out to find me. Eric tilted his head slightly. I watched you from the balcony for a long time. You were holding your report card, almost crying. He seemed immersed in some beautiful memory worth savoring. Then you glanced at my score. I continued, and mocked me, said that with the effort I put in, even a pig couldn't get such a bad grade. The stunned look on Eric's face told me he didn't remember. I know you said it without thinking. After that day, his mother hired several additional tutors for me. The new teachers specialized in my weaker subjects and adjusted their teaching based on my feedback. Privately, one of them told me it was Eric who had reminded her. How should I put it? Eric's kindness toward me was like sugar hidden beneath layers of glass shards and thorns. You had to first endure the piercing pain and shed blood before tasting that pitifully small bit of sweetness. Eric's face instantly turned pale. He hurriedly turned around and left. His panicked figure could only be described as fleeing in defeat. After that, whenever he spoke again, there was a faint cautiousness, as if afraid he might accidentally step on another landmine. Perhaps he had something weighing on his mind. When his mother brought the soup, he failed to dodge in time. A steaming bowl of chicken soup with fish maw fell straight onto his forearm. Startled, she apologized again and again. He frowned deeply, yet still asked, Miriam, are you okay? Did it splash on you? I shook my head. Inside, I sighed heavily. I only wanted to eat one quiet meal. Why was that so impossible? So annoying. The thought appeared, and I froze. From the kitchen came the sound of running water, yet I sat in my seat, without the slightest urge to check on him. When Eric returned after applying the burn ointment, his eyes were slightly red. He sat beside me cautiously. On his glistening hand, a scar about the length of a pinky finger looked even more glaring. It was the scar he got while saving me. Chapter 19. Perhaps life abroad had been too exciting. For several consecutive years, Eric did not return home. In my senior year, hinted by Monica, I went to seek reconciliation with him. We hadn't seen each other for years, and Eric had changed a lot. The reckless arrogance he once had gradually been polished by time, revealing a restrained and noble air. He said nothing about our past conflicts and received us with impeccable courtesy. On the last night of the trip, an accident happened. Suddenly, riots broke out in the neighborhood we were in. In extreme panic, everyone screamed and fled in all directions. As the crowd grew chaotic, Eric and I were separated. Around me were unfamiliar faces. In my ears were screams mixed with excitement and the sound of shattering glass. On the verge of breaking down, I suddenly saw Eric. With a face full of anxiety, he pushed through the crowd like Moses parting the sea. Moving step by step toward me against the flow of people, he grabbed my hand tightly. Don't be afraid. Come with me. His hand was trembling, just slightly, but I calmed down and gripped him back even tighter. It was a cold and chaotic night. Hand in hand, we ran through the panicked crowd, fleeing again and again. Just a second before we escaped the riot zone, a group of opportunistic looters blocked our way. One of them held a knife. When the blade flashed toward me, Eric reacted instantly, raising his arm to shield me. Just then, police sirens sounded nearby. The men exchanged glances and left reluctantly. The next day, the news reported on the riot. Monica, extremely worried, called from overseas to check on us. I softened my voice and reassured her. Then I quietly looked around Eric's small apartment. It wasn't large, but it was exceptionally tidy, which was why the squared aluminum foil packets scattered near the table leg were so conspicuous. At first, I didn't realize what they were. When I did, I felt as though all the blood in my body froze. I didn't know what I said to Monica after that. I only answered mechanically, "Don't worry. I'll persuade Eric just as you instructed." The phone was suddenly snatched away. Eric's furious voice sounded as though separated by frosted glass, distant and fragile. "So that's why you suddenly came to see me. It was my mother's order. Miriam. Oh Miriam, you really are a loyal little dog." Because he used too much force. His freshly bandaged wound split open again. A faint trail of blood seeped out. That time, we parted on bad terms. That year, Eric still did not return home. Meanwhile, the company, due to strategic mistakes from upper management, continued losing market share. I followed Monica everywhere, trying to salvage the situation with her. Later, Eric completed his studies and returned to take over the company. Monica sent me to work by his side. Through our professional collaboration and mutual understanding, our relationship thawed again, gradually becoming close. But stepping back and looking at it, the fundamental conflict between Eric and me had never disappeared. We simply pretended it wasn't there, as if ignoring it could keep everything intact. Chapter 20. Pulling myself out of the memories. I met Eric's eyes, filled with desolation. He let out a bitter laugh. "Miriam, you know, if this were the past, if you saw I was hurt, you would have rushed over to treat my wound, scolding me for not being careful, dragging me to the hospital like it was some kind of emergency, and I'd have to comfort you, telling you it wasn't serious, telling you not to cry." I smiled. "Sounds annoying." A pause, then I added softly, "Pretty stupid, too." "Not stupid at all," Eric objected. "I was the stupid one." His voice was low, hoarse, scraped raw. "I was stupid for not daring to admit I liked you. I was terrified that the reason you were good to me was only because I was Monica's son. When you said you wanted to marry me, I was genuinely happy. But there was always a voice in me asking, did you truly want to marry me? Or was it because my mom wanted you to? I didn't dare ask you, so I ran. I never expected to meet Celine. Never expected her to post all those things. Later, when you said you wanted to break off the engagement, I lost my mind. I said so many cruel things, none of them what I truly meant. But you really left, without a moment of hesitation. Miriam, you don't know how much it hurt. Just a little more, just a little, and we would have been married. Whether you loved me, or had other reasons, what does it matter? As long as you stayed by my side. His voice trembled. Miriam, I regret it. Come back to me. I have no one left. He grabbed my hand desperately. His tear-soaked eyes locked onto mine. I had never seen Eric cry so helplessly, so utterly broken. A hot tear fell onto the back of my hand. The sudden burn startled me, my fingers curled slightly. Gently, I pulled my hand back. Eric, you're just not used to it. It'll pass. No matter how deep the wound, one day it will heal. That's how I got through it. Eric's eyes reddened further. You still refuse to forgive me. I shook my head. I don't blame you anymore. And naturally, forgiveness doesn't apply. I pulled out a few tissues and handed them to him. Pain only exists when there's care. Hate only grows where there was love. Don't. Eric covered his face. Voice muffled. Don't say any more. Let me finish. I spoke gently. I'll say it slowly. After all, it seems we never really talked properly, and we won't have another chance in the future. I looked at him steadily. Eric, are you telling me that all this time, you never realized I loved you? He turned his face away. I let out a small, humorless laugh. That's not quite it, is it? You simply couldn't stand the idea that you might like someone you believed was beneath you in every way. So you used my feelings however you pleased. You trampled my affection again and again. You tested the limits of my tolerance just to measure the purity of my love. You were certain I would never leave you, so you treated me without restraint. You said you didn't dare seek clarity, so you ran. You said nothing happened with Celine, yet you still traveled with her, played with her, even held a wedding ceremony for her. You said I was greedy and vain, so you threw me out of the company without hesitation. And now, when you're left with nothing, you say you can't live without me. You want me back. I lifted my eyes to him. Eric, the world does not revolve around you. You didn't understand that at 18. And even now, you still don't. Chapter 21. Eric did not appear at the reading of Monica's will. His assistant attended on his behalf. In the will, Monica specifically stated that the old estate and all high-value jewelry under her name would be left to me. Unexpectedly, she also granted me an additional 3% of the group's shares. After signing the notarized documents, the lawyer politely informed me that they would handle all follow-up procedures. On impulse, I turned to Eric's assistant and said, compared to him, Monica was actually quite generous. The assistant pushed up his glasses and tactfully changed the subject. There are also some documents from Mr. Eric that require your signature. The villa Eric bought for our planned marriage, he had transferred it to me. In addition, he gifted me a grade A commercial office building in Rongqing. Mr. Eric also said the company doors will always be open for you. You may return anytime. No need. I declined calmly. I poured my heart into that company for years. I'm tired. The assistant nodded in understanding. Then please keep these properties. Mr. Eric said, consider them compensation for your years of work. I thought for a moment and did not refuse. Walking out of the notary office, I saw a black car parked in the shade by the roadside. The driver stepped out and opened the door for me. The assistant spoke at the right moment. Mr. Eric heard your flight is this afternoon. He upgraded your ticket. The driver will take you to the airport. No. I refused without hesitation. Tell Eric to stop making pointless attempts. The best relationship between us is no relationship at all. If he has this much energy, he should think about the company's next steps and make sure my shares don't evaporate too much. The assistant paused for 2 seconds, then gave a barely noticeable nod. The rideshare I called arrived just in time. Before I got in, the assistant called out, Miss Miriam, the landscape-themed dinnerware set you made is stunning. May I still place orders at your shop in the future? I chuckled. You can. Eric cannot. The car slowly started moving. In the rearview mirror, the assistant still stood there. A figure stepped out from the shadows and stood beside him, both looking in my direction from afar. I withdrew my gaze. Their silhouettes grew smaller and smaller, until they disappeared entirely from my world. Outside the window, white clouds drifted lazily. The vehicle turned a corner, carrying me toward a brand new journey.